More then on what's been going on in Brussels this afternoon, because MPs from the Exiting the European Union Committee have been trying to get the views of the European Union Commission and others in Brussels, all after that vote in the House of Commons last week where Theresa May, the Prime Minister, was told to go and explore alternative arrangements to the problem of that Northern Ireland backstop. Big sticking point for MPs to be able to vote for her deal, it appears. We can speak to Stephen Kinnock, the Labour MP for Aberavon, who is part of the group and joins us on the line now. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good to have you with us. Look, we've already heard actually via Twitter from one of your colleagues, Stephen Crabb, the Conservative MP for Preseli Pembrokeshire, saying that he's actually quite depressed by what he's heard today and there seems to be very little movement from the EU side. Is that what you've taken out of the talks too?
Yeah, I think the EU side is exasperated and frustrated because they've made it clear that the withdrawal agreement is done and dusted. It's not going to be reopened, and I think they're getting a bit tired of repeating themselves on that point. But I took heart from the fact that they were absolutely clear that we could negotiate and amend the political declaration on the future relationship. And if we could change that to make it a much closer and clearer relationship with the European Union based on membership of the single market and a form of customs union, they would be absolutely open to doing that. And we also, also pretty clear that would resolve the issue of the Irish border.
That is
backstop.
That is quite a leap, though, isn't it? Because sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Kinnock, for a lot of MPs who are opposed to this idea of a backstop that might keep the UK in a customs union for perhaps a temporary period of time, they fear perhaps a permanent backstop. They're unlikely to accept anything that might see any form of single market unification, any form of customs union. So you're almost back to square one.
Well, I've always believed that there is a cross-party parliamentary majority for a sensible, pragmatic, bridge-building Brexit. It's up to the Prime Minister now to face down the hardline Brexiteers on the right of her party, to reach out to the Labour Party and others. I think it's very good that she's now sitting down and speaking with Jeremy Corbyn. And we've got to get a type of Brexit which says, yes, we need to leave the European Union, but the 52-48 was an instruction to move house but stay in the same neighbourhood. And if we can take that mandate as our basis, then we get a sensible form of Brexit, and we can then actually move on and get out of this political and constitutional crisis in which we find ourselves.
Do you think she's likely she hasn't got very long, has she? There's another vote next Thursday in the House of Commons on whatever she gets from Brussels, if anything. Is that enough time to take, A, something concrete to Brussels that they may look at and think, yeah, we can work with that? And B, would that be enough then to win round a majority of MPs in the House of Commons next week?
Well, it is going to require radical and creative thinking, but we are now in desperate straits. We've got until the 29th of March. We cannot leave the EU without a deal. I believe that would destroy the steelworks in my constituency, destroy the car industry, destroy the manufacturing sector across the board, and would be really bad for the United Kingdom in so many ways. So we've got to avoid leaving with no deal. I think it may require a short extension. Mr. Verhofstadt, the key person in the European Parliament, confirmed today that we could get an extension to the 1st of July, no problem at all, but it has to be based on a clear set of instructions about how we would change the negotiating position. That, in my view, has to be for a Norway-based deal. He was very positive to that. Both he and Mr. Selmayr were very familiar with the detail of the work that I've been doing with a cross-party group of MPs for this Common Market 2.0 Norway-style exit. And I think they're very open to that. So Parliament's got to find a way through this. Theresa May, I think if she keeps trying to get them to change the backstop and the withdrawal agreement, she's flogging a dead horse. She needs to stop with that and pivot to a sensible, pragmatic bridge building.
Right. Although in fairness, we've been saying, or we've been hearing from people like your good self for weeks, for months now perhaps, that is what Theresa May needs to do. She's shown absolutely no inclination thus far to take that path, and it's her decision ultimately. She's been more concerned with bringing her Brexiteer colleagues in the Conservative Party on board, who would be against any Norway-style deal on the whole, or any Canada-style deal on the whole too.
Well, I just don't know how long she can go on with it. She's now asking to reopen the withdrawal agreement again, to come back to Brussels again. Mr. Selmayr said he counted, I think, 6 times that the Prime Minister's now come back asking for adjustments. It's going beyond a joke. Parliament voted against leaving with no deal. There is a clear parliamentary majority against leaving with no deal.
Well, the crucially wasn't the binding option there, was it? They did vote against it, but that was an expression of wish. Parliament didn't go for the one that would categorically have ruled that out.
We've got amendments going down, of course, the Cooper-Bowles amendment, which didn't pass Parliament this time, but we are ready to retable that, and that would create a legally binding basis for ensuring we do not leave with no deal. We've got to now throw the kitchen sink at this. We've got to make sure that we leave the EU, yes, but we do so in a way that does not wreck the jobs and livelihoods of the people that we were elected to represent. Okay. And the Prime Minister has to face up to her responsibilities and act in the national interest now, rather than constantly playing to the gallery of her hard Brexiteers.
Can I just ask you, because an awful lot would need to happen this week, and whether we see the kitchen sink or not will remain to be seen, of course. This coming Thursday, or a week Thursday, do you think we will actually get a definitive resolution to all of this, or is next Thursday just yet another step on the road to something as we approach the 29th of March?
Well, I really fear that it's going to be yet another tour around the roundabout, I'm afraid. And that's because the Prime Minister keeps claiming that she can get the EU to reopen the withdrawal agreement and change the backstop. And the EU is absolutely clear that's not going to happen. That's the deal the Prime Minister spent 18 months negotiating and telling us there was no alternative. And she's now suddenly trying to flip on that. It's not going to happen. So I think, I'm afraid she will give it one more try. I'm afraid that she will fail once again. And we are then getting into extremely dangerous waters. And I believe in the second half of February, I really hope that she will wake up and smell the coffee and realise that this can't go on, and that we will get a sensible change that can deliver a parliamentary majority. And I really hope that those negotiations, reaching out across the House to us, to the sensible mainstream part of our own party, marginalising the hard right.
Okay, Mr. Kinnock.
It's the only way we're going to get out of this mess.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Stephen Kinnock, Labour MP for Aberavon, who's been in Brussels today.